the mining sector tries to, estimate, supply demand, but it's almost impossible to do that. We know from our perspective as a mining company, there's no resistance for our product. It's a world market, and then, we don't have a workforce, we don't have a sales force. It's a 5-minute phone call, and our metal's gone. Where it goes, well, that's your guess as good as mine.
Today's guest is a supporting sponsor of Liberty in Finance. Welcome back to Liberty in Finance. We're privileged to have this widely followed returning guest. He's practically a folk hero among our viewers and subscribers. Keith Neumeyer is the CEO of First Majestic Silver. He joins us today is Thursday, July 10th, 2025. And here we are live at the Rural Symposium on Natural Resources Investing in Boca Raton, Florida. Keith, thanks for coming back on Liberty in Finance.
Well, it's great to see you in Dunnigan. And I think the last time I saw you was here last year.
Yeah, that's true. It's been too long. It's been too long. And we thought we would be able to bring several updates in between there, but you were just giving me a rundown of some of the amazing progress that you've made just in the last couple of quarters. We want you to talk about that. And so maybe we should start there. And then I got lots of more questions. But first of all, tell us, because it's pretty exciting numbers you put up for Q1, and now just yesterday announced your Q2 numbers. So help our audience understand why this is such good news at this time.
Well, the company's growing, obviously, which is nice to see. And it seems like every 3 years we do an acquisition, and lo and behold, we pulled off another major acquisition in January of this year. Largest transaction in the company's history, $970 million we paid for the Los Gatos silver mine in Chihuahua State, Mexico. And it's really added a ton of cash flow to the business and a lot of production, of course, as well. Last year, 2024, we will have produced approximately 21 million ounces of silver equivalent, and this year will be about 31 million ounces of silver equivalent. So it's a pretty big increase year over year. 55% of that is silver, which puts us in a pretty unique position, in the global markets, in the silver space. And 35% of that is gold, and the rest is in the form of lead and zinc. So, we're very all in when it comes to silver.
Your stock price had been struggling for quite a bit of the last year or so, but these new results seem like destined to move things in the right direction for investors who are entering. Can you help us understand? Because frankly, the whole industry was kind of languishing for years.
Yeah.
First, Majestic actually was a leader, a standout for a period of the time, and then there was some setbacks, and now you seem to be just firing on all cylinders here.
Yeah, I think we got penalized by the markets for the Jarrett Canyon acquisition that we did back in 2021. We ended up shutting that mine down because we just, I was quite honestly just didn't want to keep losing money. That mine in hindsight, would have, we should have shut it down on day one, and then reinvested and improved it, because we knew improvements were required. But, at $1,600 gold and all-in sustaining costs of $2,400 an ounce, we were just burning too much cash. And it was the right decision to close it down. It will get reopened, and we have a plan in place. We're not talking a lot about it right now because we just want, we don't want to restart it just for a year and then have to shut it down again. Once it's restarted, we're going to make sure it's going to operate for 10 years or maybe even 20 years. We'll see. But all that will be made public, when we're ready to do that. But I think it was unfairly, we were at, who knows? I'm the CEO, right? So, of course, I'm going to have my own biases. But I think the market did treat us unfairly as a result of that decision. I think it was a good decision to do. The stock was down a lot the day we announced that closure, and it never really recovered much. It just kind of went sideways for, almost 2 years. And then with the Gatos acquisition, we're now proving to the market that, hey, look, we may not bat 100% all the time, but over 22 years of putting this company together, I'm very proud of our team and proud of our history in putting good projects together and acquiring good projects. And we're now one of the largest. Well, we have been one of the largest silver producers in North America, and we continue maintaining that position in the silver space.
And your Q1 and Q2 results, the Q2 result just came out yesterday, and they build on your Q1 results. You want to focus on those for a moment?
Yeah, the Q2 numbers, we didn't put the financials out yet. So the financials will come out in mid-August, but the production numbers did come out. And, I can't talk about our treasury too much, but, we're making cash, and treasury is building. We left Q1 with over $450 million in the bank. So our balance sheet's the strongest it's ever been in the company's history. So, I've said on other interviews, as a CEO, you're always in the mining sector. It's such a cash intensive business, and having not to have to go to the markets for money to buy another asset or invest money in an expansion project or something like that, it's really nice to be in that position. And as I said, the balance sheet's great and the production continues to rise. We expect to have the last half of 2025 even continually show improvements compared to Q2.
Wow. And that'll put you, what kind of production numbers are you looking towards for this year?
Yeah, we did redo our guidance, which the stock was up yesterday about, I think, 6 or 7% as a result of us upgrading our guidance. So, we had guided around 29 to 30 million ounces back in January. Now we're guiding between 30 and 32 million ounces, in which I said, 55% of that silver.
And now here's where I got to say that for our viewers who are painfully aware of the hijinks that have been played on the COMEX exchange for some time that have impacted the value of bullion that people have owned, have seen First Majestic and you personally, I think, as a bit of a folk hero because of trying to vertically integrate to see what can be done to bypass some of the, some would call it corruption or conflict of interest or things like that are happening. Can you talk to us about, and so you have First Mint, which actually puts out investable bullion directly to the public. Other things that you have or are working on to make sure that this is an honest and fair marketplace rather than one where it's just being manipulated by those with other interests to serve other than the public.
Yeah, and that's why I opened the Mint, because Andy Sheckman told me yesterday that there's 2 billion ounces of paper silver traded every day, and and the miners only produce 830 million ounces a year, so it trades 2 billion a day. So that leverage is just crazy. So for us to get that mint up and running, and to pull that metal off the market, that metal's not going to the banks anymore. So they don't have that leverage against our metal, which is a great place to be. So you do the math. If we in 2024, we had 5% of our production go through the Mint. In Q1, we had 7% of our production go through the Mint. Our goal is to get 10% of our production through the Mint by the end of 2025. If we can get that even greater than that and get it, I'd like to get 100% of our production through the Mint. And, that takes a lot of metal. You can do the math. It's billions of ounces of paper trading that could potentially be removed out of the marketplace because the banks all of a sudden wouldn't have that metal that they're expecting to hedge from.
It's fascinating. And if you, I think, have been one of the people from whom there's been kind of this breaking of a different but related story, I believe. And that's, we've heard that there's incredible physical off-taking of metal from the major exchanges, not only the COMEX, but the LBMA and others, and it can be on the part of China or India or others. But we've heard more recently that it isn't all coming off the exchanges. Some of that is being acquired without going, not basically off the exchanges, directly from producers in a form of semi-finished or doré or whatever. Is there any insight that you can share with our viewers about these other pathways that are not being reflected on the exchange? So, because there's a lot of concern about how, I guess, contrived and not reflective of reality the spot price is that's set on the COMEX, and that there are maybe other forces at play that are bypassing the exchanges as well. Do we know anything about that?
It's a very secretive industry, and the smelters don't tell you their inputs, and a lot of the metal that miners produce is in the form of concentrates. So, and then there's no smelting capacity in North America. So all this concentrate from the West, like Peru, Argentina, Mexico, even North America, like Canada and the United States, there's no capacity to refine that or to smelt that concentrate. So all goes to Asia. And then once it gets into Asia, it's hidden. There's no reporting. No one knows how much metal they've got, what they're holding. They don't export the metal. They keep it themselves. They use it for their own industries. And it's this kind of mysterious kind of number that just is out there. And so the mining sector tries to, estimate, supply demand, but it's almost impossible to do that. We know from our perspective as a mining company, there's no resistance for our product. Like, it's a world market, and then, we don't have a workforce, we don't have a sales force. It's a 5-minute phone call, and our metals are gone. Where it goes, well, that's your guess as good as mine.
You mentioned not having domestic smelting capability in the U.S.
Yeah.
For your first mint products that are available to the public, where do those get smelted?
Okay, so they don't get smelted. So that's what's different. Okay, so those are doré bars. So mining companies produce either a doré bar, which is a block of metal, could be gold, could be silver. In our case, it's silver doré bars. So that they'd be 90 to 95% silver, and then there's a whole bunch of other metals, and the gold would be in there, maybe some copper, some lead, and zinc would be in that bar as well. But that bar gets sent into the United States, and there's lots of refineries. Lots of refineries. And those refineries then spit out 1,000-ounce commercial bars. And then the banks, those commercial bars then get sold into the banks primarily. Our bars, fortunately, some of those bars get sent to Las Vegas, our mint. So we keep those in-house. But, a majority of our silver actually just goes into the banking system. But concentrates is a completely different world. So there's a group of refineries that exist, in the U.S. and Canada, and there's lots of them out there. There's a big competition, and it costs us almost nothing to refine a doré bar into a pure ounce of silver, because it's a very competitive industry, which is great for us. And but smelters, that's a different world. There's very few smelters around. They're all at capacity, and all the smelting capacity is really in Asia. So Japan, Korea, China, and that's where it all goes. Or majority of our North American production, or South American and North American production, all goes to Asia.
If you were a new investor, and there's a lot of them who are just finding out about the precious metals and the natural resource industry, and they've been looking at, maybe had their retirement was pegged to the high flying stock indices that have now been struggling a bit for the past year or so, and they're looking to rotate, as the insiders are of those high tech companies, out into something that's more down to earth, a little bit more commodity driven. What would you say to a new investor who's looking at First Majestic to help them understand in a nutshell why they should take a very close look at First Majestic, other than what I tell them, which is Rimul has hand selected them to be at the show? What else would you say differentiates First Majestic in the eyes of prospective investors?
NVIDIA went up $120 billion yesterday. The share price moved, NVIDIA, $120 billion move in one day. That's bigger. That's probably 3 times the size of the entire silver industry in one day. So, it is pretty crazy. I look at the current market. It's very similar to what it looked like back in 2000. And, I just retired from my copper company that I put together in the prior decade. And I was kind of looking around, and I was trading the high-tech market a little bit.
So this is what a retiree looks like after 25 years.
Well, I've been in this business for 40 years, so it's been a while. So I turned 65 this year. So anyways, I remember the NASDAQ hitting 5,000.
Yes, it did.
In March of 2000, right? And I owned a couple of high-tech stocks at the time, which I unfortunately lost money on, but I made money on the run, so I did okay, in the whole scheme of things. But, when I saw the market collapse, the NASDAQ went down 80%, from 2000 to 2003. And that's what really lit up the resource market, because all this money had to go somewhere. So it went into real estate, it went into mining, metals, and we saw silver go from $5 to $50. We saw gold go from $250 to $1,800. Copper, of course, exploded. All the metals and all the stocks, like First Majestic, went to $25 a share. By 2011, we were producing 10 million ounces of silver that year, and we were, everything was great. But no one predicted that, the silver price is going to go from 50 to 12, over the next 3 years, which it did, unfortunately. Our stock was, killed like the entire mining sector was as well. And now what I'm seeing is the repeat of the same all over again. And of course, First Majestic has its unique characters and characteristics. We are the purest silver company in the world. We're all in Mexico, which is a pretty good jurisdiction as far as we're concerned, we've got 3 solid long life assets that'll be producing for the next decades into the future, long mine life. So, and the cash flows there, the treasury's increasing. It's just a great time to be, I think, in the mining sector as a whole. But if you're looking at silver, there's only 3 or 4 silver companies out there, and of the group of silver companies listed in the United States, we're the peers of the group.
We're going to put a link to the corporate website in the description of this video. So folks, if you want to find out more about First Majestic, and it's one of the premier silver producers that you need to know about. But in addition to going to the website and seeing what resources you have there for investors, what else should investors consider doing to learn more about First Majestic or about the industry in general?
Yeah, well, the industry is another thing altogether. And, I'm on Twitter, Keith_Neumeyer, go to First Majestic website. We got a 1-800 toll-free number there, info@firstmajestic.com if people want to send us emails for specific questions on any topic. But, industry-wise, I would just suggest people do their research. The mining sector is very risky. It's very, it's a very complicated business. You're dealing with Mother Nature, and you're dealing with a very cash intensive industry. And, for me, I like to, focus on the producers, but I do have some money in the explorers as well, because it's always kind of fun to get that potential leverage, owning a small little explorer that might, get an interesting drill hole. So, I always have a little bit of money there, but, for those less inclined to take that type of risk, because it is a risky part of the sector, go after the producers. And, we're right in there mid-tier, and I can tell people that are listening here today that, the big funds out there, the big pension funds, the big mutual funds that used to be invested in this market a decade ago are now all of a sudden starting to relook at this industry. So they're not jumping in with all 2 feet or whatever, but they're still making money on NVIDIA and all the high tech stocks. But I think that there's a whole ton of money that's going to be coming into the mining sector, and I think that's when you start to see the big moves. Stock has done okay year to date, but I think last time silver was at north of $30, our stock is $25. Right? And today the stock is $8 or $9, and we're at $36 silver. So there is a bit of a disconnect, and there's a lot of catch up. And potential, gains for people that want to jump in. I can't give financial advice, of course, but I personally bought so much stock myself just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm all in when it comes to the company and silver.
Well, Keith, thanks for joining us again. You're a difficult man to catch up to, but we're going to be persistent and keep bringing you in front of our viewers, because we love getting these updates from you. And we'll continue to do that throughout the year as this story develops, that you've got a whole new chapter started with your Los Gatos mine. And Manny was telling us a couple weeks ago some more of that information. So we're going to be wanting to stay up on top of that. And thank you for being here with us again on Liberty of Finance.
Well, it's great seeing you again, and don't let my office say no. If you ever want to reach out and have another chat, I'm always happy to do that. So maybe a personal nudge might be required next time. But
I've got it recorded. I got him saying that. This is not an AI version. This is the real guy. See, look.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on.
Good seeing you.
Take care.